Mike, can you ask your Alexa, what's the CIA? Does it send information to the CIA?
Alexa, are you recording my conversations and sending them to random CIA agents? That was so funny, man. I knew Staffer was going to have fun with that one as soon as I saw it.
The advice provided on this podcast is general advice only. All statements made are considered by the participants to be accurate, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed. It has been prepared without taking into account your objectives, financial situations, or needs. All participants in this podcast, including guests, may have a financial interest in any or all of the products or services mentioned. Before acting on this advice, you should consider the appropriateness of the advice, having regard to your own objectives, financial situations, and needs. If any private products are detailed on this podcast, you should obtain a product disclosure statement relating to the products and consider its contents before making any decisions. Where quoted, past performance is not indicative of future results.
Welcome to the Money Path Podcast with your hosts, Bob Iacchino and Mike Arnold, founders of Path Trading Partners. Today's episode, we get down to crude. And we're sponsored by Motive Wave. Go to pathtradingpartners.com and download your 14-day free trial. So let's join Bob and Mike with a conversation of news in the markets.
It's all a conspiracy.
It really is.
You know what's a conspiracy?
What?
Cost to fill up my tank in my car.
I know, crazy, right?
What
so
the?
You can do crude oil now? We can do crude right away.
I want to do crude right away. I want to hit the ground running. Well, actually, crude's plunged the last couple of days.
So U.S. production up above 10 million barrels a day. We're now officially the largest producer in the world. Past Saudi Arabia, past Russia. And that may be sparking what is sparking the sell-off in crude, because yesterday, overnight, really, and again, we record this Friday mornings, overnight it was announced that at the meeting next month in Vienna with OPEC, Russia is going to attend, and they're going to talk about easing up on the production cuts. That's going to be on the docket of things to talk about. So when you add that into the crude oil curve and the nature of $70 WTI and Brent crude having hit a new annual high of upwards of $80, right? The Brent crude high for 2018 is now the sort of OPEC target. The high is 80.49, and OPEC was constantly talking about getting to $80 a barrel before they did their IPO. That is what has hit crude oil so hard, because now you've got dual supply. So again, the level of like $72, $73 WTI with the curve being in backwardation, for those of you that don't know, backwardation means the front month is more expensive than the subsequent back months in the futures curve. They go lower in price as you go out. You need two things for U.S. producers to have an ideal situation. Number one, you need the front month high. And number two, you need the overall curve high, but with the front months lower. And the reason for that is they want to be able to sell the oil they have now. That's why you need the front month high, so they can make money on that. And then hedge lower prices out into the future so that they continue to spend on production improvements and new production. So the curve is in such a way that U.S. producers are actually going to start ramping up in CapEx. Now, we're falling today. We're below $69 a barrel as I speak to you guys. But still the curve is in backwardation, and still it's been that way long enough for U.S. producers to do what a lot of people have called turn the spigots on. I've mentioned this in the podcast ad nauseum, but it's not that simple. You don't just turn the spigots on. The shale oil patch fired 75% of their workers. Well, now they got enough money coming in from where crude oil prices are and have been to be able to expand and actually improve their production exponentially. So you've got two really strong production catalysts now. The supply glut is gone. It was at 340 million barrels. Now it's at about 9 million. So increased production is imminent now. And then lastly, the seasonality where crude oil rises generally starts to taper off around June or July, and we're approaching that point in time. This Monday's Memorial Day, official start of the summer driving season, the way crude oil analysts look at it. So the demand's going to spike in gasoline, crude oil is going to be produced, and prices are probably done to the upside for the short term unless OPEC doesn't change their production targets. That is both my why and my crude oil segment.
All right, so we're done.
We are. Talk to you guys next week.
Hey, what's going on with the dollar? Dollar's still strong.
Dollar is still strong. I think it has a lot to do with the Fed talking about. So it's twofold. So in the Fed minutes, they talked about the letting inflation run a little hot. Okay, so that had a little bit of a depressing effect on the dollar. The dollar actually fell when they said that a little bit, but rallied back in toward the end of the day. Fell a little bit yesterday when they announced the cancellation of the North Korea summit, because that goes to global trade, along with the announcement of potential tariffs on all imported automobiles, which I believe was just Trump being Trump. I don't think he's actually going to do that. So many of the American the imported automobiles are made here that to slow those sales down would hurt more jobs likely. And I don't think he's going to do that. I think that, again, is him. He does a lot of posturing, and people are starting to understand that. Posturing versus actual acts are completely different things. So the Fed talking about letting inflation run a little hot gives people the idea that when they need to ramp it up because inflation has run hot, they're going to need to ramp it up a lot more quickly. So they're still on their path for 2 more rate hikes for 2018. The data has not dissuaded them at all for that. We've got the 10-year note down below 3% again, but it is rising back up as we speak. It's about 2.94 right now. But earlier today, it was lower than that. It was right around 290. So the dollar strength, there's no turning away from that. And then you take away from the 2 major currencies that trade against the U.S. dollar, the yen and the euro, and those things are in free fall, and there's nothing looking like that's going to catch that free fall for either currency yet. They might end up, an odd day here or there, but the euro's in terrible shape. Eurozone has really bad data, and Eurozone has a higher bar than the U.S. for raising rates. They want to see inflation turn up. The U.S. just wants to see normalization. So Euro futures are down 0.5% as I speak to you right now. The yen is only down about 0.1%, but the yen, again, has had a 2-day rally, and it's coming up against the 50 and the 200-day moving average, and it had death cross recently. So the 2 major trading opposites to the U.S. dollar are overall weak. The dollar is just going to continue to stay strong.
Euro chart, our next levels, we had 1680, which we hit 2 days ago. And so now I have to update the levels again. And let's see where we can project to. So the next, and thank you very much, Think or Swim for nothing. It should be called Sink or Swim. Next level is 1582, then we're at 1489. So those are next levels down, and the falling rotation zone on the daily. So first level resistance on any rally is about 1755, and next major area is about 1840. So that's what we're watching for on the euro. But still, yeah, you gotta trade short euro right now. What else from we already talked about the Fed this week. You already talked about the minutes. The only thing that jumped out to me in the minutes was that there are still vulnerabilities associated with asset valuation pressures, while having come down a little in recent months, nonetheless continued to be elevated. So they're still talking.
To me, that's theater of the obvious, right? I mean,
yeah.
Stocks have been going up for 10 years, and they're at risk of going down. You think? It jumped out at me as being ridiculous and redundant.
Yeah, but they have to put it in there. It's like, see, we told you so. What else did they have? We had Fed speakers this week, though, too. We had Bostic. The yield curve is still very present in all of their minds. So they're not ignoring that yield curve and the possible inversion. Harker came out that we usually don't know it's an asset bubble until it's passed. Very helpful there. Harker also said his opinion 2019 could be the end of the Fed's tightening cycle.
Really?
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. And cash and carry, or Kashikari, cryptocurrencies have become a farce. So
What is farce trading at?
I don't know. I was going to look if there's a farce coin.
There probably is.
Farce coin. I wonder if there is a farce coin.
It's got to be an ERC-20 contract. That's got to be in that ridiculous playground.
If not, we should make a farce coin. We're trading farce.
It would be a token. It would be a token. Correction.
Yeah, it would. Well,
now any 13-year-old can build a token off the Ethereum blockchain. That's how it would go down.
That's how easy it is?
Yeah. It's like HTML 1.0 was in the 90s. It's the Solidity language to write these contracts. It's there's no professionals. Everybody's just a novice.
That's where it's become a farce, actually. Besides cryptos, of course. Then we have to follow up on this. Deutsche Bank. What's the over/under for a bailout?
Oh, the over/under. What do you mean in terms of amount? Or whether it's going to happen or not?
Whether it's going to happen. It's not whether it's going to happen. It's going to be the timing of when it's going to happen.
Yeah, probably yesterday. I mean, it's coming.
Yeah, but they're just getting their stocks now getting hammered again. We've talked about this because this is my theoretical going to zero. I can't officially make it going to zero because I think they'll get bailed. They'll have to be bailed out.
I think if they get a bailout, it officially has gone to zero as per our standards.
As per our rules.
Yeah.
Does that
it's like coming close to a target?
Because Deutsche Bank to fire 10,000 employees, 1 in every 10.
Wow.
That's big. That's just not like, we're going to get rid of a few people. So that's getting rid of like 10% of their workforce right there.
That's massive.
That's huge.
Absolutely massive.
So that's the big news. Yeah, they have major problems. It's been on my radar screen. They're trading back to their levels that they haven't been trading since what years? Since September of 16. Yeah, the Bloomberg also reported this week that the bank is about to, quote, retreat from a swath of equities markets across the world, including some of its own doorstep in Europe.
Well, what does that mean?
They're getting out of a lot of their equity stuff.
But they're selling equities, or are they getting out of the equity business?
They're getting out of the equity business.
That's interesting. It's like a solid business. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that, like, I hate when, honestly, guys like us comment about what's going on in the internals of a business. We have no idea. It just seems you get this all the time. All we can do is comment on the stock and what the stock is doing. But it's funny because it seems to me like that's one of the easier businesses.
Their CEO actually came out. We're not speculating because he's even come out and said they're reducing all their their trading, their equity trading departments and everything else. They're unwinding a lot of that. So, yeah, I guess they haven't been doing very well. And we still have they have a ton of derivative contracts. So the counterparty risk things are coming up again, and people are starting to get a little worried. But we'll see. It's in the going to zero corner, and it's gone to 12.
Well, on its way.
It's honest. I got to look at like a 10-year.
Here's the bet. Do we get a bailout prior to single digits? I say we get single digits first.
I think we get single digits. I mean, the lows back in 2009 after its collapse. I mean, Deutsche Bank at one point was trading 159. Collapsed all the way down. It was trading in the 20s at its lows in 2009. Now it's at 12. I mean, it's done. So maybe they've been dabbling too much in the cryptocurrencies, and they were long too much Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see this week? Speaking of cryptocurrencies,
what?
China is now ranking cryptocurrencies.
What does that mean?
The first government in the world to provide ratings on cryptocurrencies, and these, has banned a lot of the trading of them. The China Center for Information Industry Development, the CCID, a research unit under the country's industrial ministry, officially launched its monthly ratings index on 28 crypto coins and the blockchains behind them. The CCID said the index is based on 3 criteria: technology, application, and innovation. But they didn't publish their methodology. They said those are the inputs they're looking at. Ethereum is a top-rated crypto in the first issue of its ratings, while Bitcoin came in 13th place. So they have their rankings: Ethereum number 1, Steam number 2, Lisk number 3, Neo 4, Komodo number 5, Stellar number 6, Cardano number 7, IOTA number 8, Monero number 9, Stratus number 10, Quantum QTUM number 11, BitShares number 12, Bitcoin number 13, Verge number is tied for 13, and Waves number 15.
Bitcoin number 13.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
So that there, and they're going to update their, I guess it's going to be monthly reports, so we'll have to keep watching for this to see how what new ones come on, what falls off.
And what are they ranking it based on?
Technology, application, and innovation.
Wow.
So, like the highest in technology, Steam, STEEM, got the highest technology rating at 82.6. Ethereum got second at 80.3. Application now, Ethereum scored second. Ethereum came in second at 23.7. Neo actually was one coin I like. Neo, 26.6. Innovation, Ethereum came in 25.4. Like the highest, I think, was Komodo. No, the highest was Bitcoin, 35.6. Next was Komodo. So they total up these indices and then they rank them. I mean, I just think it's interesting that they're actually, even though you can't trade them in China anymore, we're ranking them in case you wanted to participate, which we banned. We're going to rank them for you.
I wonder if that's like kind of leading the way toward them making it okay. Like they might at some point open up the market and say you could trade the top 5 or 10 that have averaged this ranking. That could be what they're doing.
Now there will be a People's Republic of China coin.
There you go.
Well, it's interesting because they also issued a report, China did, that showed more than 400 fake cryptos occupying its domestic marketplace. They're like saying, hey, there's a bunch of fake cryptos floating around. So they're going to definitely do something. They're cracking down hard, citing, quote, risks that cannot be ignored with initial coin offerings, pyramid schemes, and fraud.
Swiss National Bank is mulling a coin, a Swiss digital blockchain currency backed by the Swiss National Bank.
One other thing before I'm on this, in other bad news for cryptos this week, Cointelegraph reported India Central Board of Indirect Taxes is considering 18% tax on cryptocurrency exchanges, deeming the digital currencies as, quote, intangible goods. So it looks like they're going to go after taxing cryptos in India. Also, the U.S. launches a criminal probe into Bitcoin price manipulation.
Who launched that?
The U.S. Justice Department.
Wow.
So they've opened a criminal probe into whether traders are manipulating the price of Bitcoin and other digital currencies.
See, I still think this kind of thing is good for Bitcoin. Is good for cryptos. The more you get these kind of serious investigations and things like that, and reasonable regulation, you get more of a comfort level with people. With more, they need more buyers now. Cryptocurrencies need more excitement. They need more buyers, and a lot of it has to do with some of these people who, I maintain, don't really understand why somebody would want to be involved in an altcoin, in cryptocurrencies, like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or some of these other people. Again, just this sort of completely disingenuous comment that Bill Gates made, where he said, if there was an easy way to short it, I would. There is an easy way to short it. It's called CME Bitcoin futures. You can short them all you want, as many as you want.
Bob,
Yep.
don't the futures, don't they expire soon, like next month?
Yeah, but it just rolls into another contract.
Traditionally in markets, does that affect prices?
No, there's every CME futures contract lists out, not every one, but most of them list out about 10 years in 3-month increments. So if you wanted to short Bitcoin, all you would do is when the time comes for your Bitcoin futures contract to expire, you roll into the next one. So let's say you're short Bitcoin futures, you go into the system and you June is going to be one that's going to expire next. And you buy the June and sell the July, and that's it. And now you're still short. You just roll into the next contract and you stay short the entire time.
Yeah, you can. That's what was so shocking about his comment. You can trade in the futures all day long, whether long or short. You can participate in its.
Right. That's why I think it was just a completely disingenuous comment. I really do.
Oh, crude's still below 68 now, Bob.
Yeah. I mean, it's real.
It's real. It's plunging. It's at this 50-day exponential moving average.
Look at a chart of CXL, Mike.
CXO?
Yeah, CXO.
Kanoko?
Yeah, it's an energy stock.
Yeah.
It's Concho Resources. They're a driller.
Concho.
Yeah. They closed above their 200-day moving average yesterday. It fell below and closed above it. And now they've gapped open below it. You see maybe 135 there? What do you see in terms of target?
Yeah, I could see him. I actually could see let's see. There's a major support level about 136.50. And then if that's broken, we're probably looking for a return to about 130, mid 132. 132.50 to 133 if we break through this key support.
Right.
So yeah, they're plunging. Speaking of plunging, I have to check into my favorite stocks. Blue Apron, all the way up to 311.
$311?
Yes. No.
I'm waiting for that joke to get stale.
It's not going to.
Let's see where they return to on the weekly chart, though. Did they? Oh, they're actually above the weekly rotation zone.
For reals.
Wow, somebody must be going to buy them or something. Because that's interesting. That's the first time they've actually gotten above the weekly rotation zone since it's been trading. Poor little Snapchat trading 1065.
Poor little Snapchat.
Yeah. Oh, Twitter. What's Twitter been doing? I hate this platform now. They've completely ruined it. Well, we're trading 33.59. Interesting. If it rallies a bit more, this is going to make a really big potential double top in Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been happening with those other potential double tops that we talked about last week? Are they? Is that your what?
I didn't have a what yet. Oh, Amazon's still in play. Amazon's potential double top still in play.
Okay.
But that's on a weekly basis, so that's nothing to invalidate it. What else do we have? Alphabet. Still, that one was confirmed, but still not triggered. A lot of these, because the market's sort of holding in this range right now, they're just holding along with it. Mm-hmm. What else do we have? Netflix potential double top is no longer valid.
Okay.
Netflix up to new highs this week. 354.36 was its high.
Mm-hmm.
So Netflix just keeps going.
Yeah, it does.
Netflix just keeps going. Is there anything in the international markets that caught your eye, Bob?
Just the constant for the international markets. First of all, you've got much slower. Let me rephrase that. Weaker data out of the EU, and you've got weaker data out of Japan, and you've got slightly stronger data out of China. So overall, that whole sort of narrative of synchronized global growth seems like it's left the building. The EU especially, their data just keeps coming in weaker and weaker. And I've already talked probably ad nauseum about the sort of divergence between the EU Central Bank and the US Central Bank. Japan, which about 6 months ago, the Bank of Japan was talking about having conversations of removing accommodation, and then their GDP went much more negative than expected. The EU has got really weak inflation data, and their Fed keeps talking about waiting for inflation in order to remove accommodation. And again, I mentioned this earlier, that's why the currencies are diverging as much as they are, and that's why it's tough to see the dollar going down for those two reasons. So, but today we've got U.S. data, and the durable goods orders came in much weaker than expected, down 1.7 versus an expectation of down 1.3. And then the Michigan sentiment, the current condition index was through the roof, but the sentiment index was lower than expected. So that kind of implies the consumers are they're like, I still feel good now, but I don't know how things are going to be later. That's what that sort of implies, the feeling is. So internationally, it's still U.S.-led growth and a little bit of weakness out of Japan, a lot of weakness in the EU, and sort of flat to neutral in China.
Well, there you have it.
There you had it.
67.80.
Yeah, I mean, it's no joke.
So it's plunging. I mean, it's down. What percentage is it down today? That's big.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
It's down like 4%.
Crude oil is down 4.13% at 67.67. I'm sorry, 67.76.
That is so
almost 4.25%.
When's it going to be cheaper than to fill up my car? That's all.
So again, I've talked about this in the past. It is not a one-to-one relationship, even though it should.
But I want it to be.
Generally $2 or $1 in crude is about 20 cents in gasoline. I'm sorry, about 10 cents in gasoline. But it works more to the upside than it does to the downside. Prices in gasoline scream higher when crude oil screams higher, and they trickle lower when crude oil falls.
I know.
It's really annoying.
That gosh darn trickle-down effect does not work.
Yeah, this is a massive down day.
This is big.
Yeah, it's biggest down day since probably, just a quick glance at my chart, September 8th of last year, maybe.
In February, how much were we down in February back on the 7th of February? That
one looks like we were down, like
not
close. Previous day's close to next day's close. And it looks like we closed at 63.92 on the 6th, and on the 7th we closed at 61.73. So only $2 there.
Yeah, I was looking at from open to close.
Here we're down basically 3.
Yeah, it's big. It's huge.
It is big.
So we can't fill up our cars just yet. My favorite stock. What's my favorite stock?
Oh, Tesla.
That's right. Have you been following Elon's tweet storms this week?
I am now pro Elon.
Oh.
Because he has now been called by the mainstream media who he attacked. They said, Elon, you and Trump are the same. So now I'm pro Elon.
That's awesome.
Did you see he had a number of meltdowns this week on Twitter, but he went after the media. You know that report we talked about a few weeks ago about all the injuries at his plant, and the report came out saying they weren't reporting them, and it was by I forget what organization put it up.
The harassment also, there was harassment stuff going on.
But there was a lot of stuff that they were supposedly covering up, and it's a legitimate reporting agency. It's a not-for-profit. Well, he flipped out at them this week. And he also flipped out with Consumer Reports. You know, they came out with their initial ratings. They won't give the Tesla Model 3 a recommendation at this point because of its braking distance, although Elon then said he's going to have an over-the-air update to fix that, and they said they'll retest if it does actually fix it. But currently, the Tesla stopping distance of 152 feet from 60 miles per hour is far worse than any contemporary car we've tested, and about 7 feet longer than the stopping distance of a Ford F-150 full-size pickup.
Well, the initial stopping distance is inside their specs, but then it has just this unbelievable brake fade, and then every emergency stop after that is
right
50%.
But they take an average of them, so
oh, okay.
Their first one hit, And then every subsequent one was off the charts. And then they did this. They got another vehicle to test it in. They borrowed somebody else's car besides the one they bought, and they got the same results.
Those calipers aren't big enough. That car weighs a ton. That car weighs 3 tons.
So it'll be interesting to see if his over-the-air update, it just worries me when Tesla does these over-the-air updates like tinkering. Oh, we're going to roll it out in a few days. You're reprogramming your brake stuff and your regenerative brake stuff on the fly. It just worries me. But they also said the testers also found big flaws, such as long stopping distances in emergency brake tests and difficult to use controls. They do not like that one big pad in the middle that does everything. Another major factor that compromised the Model 3 road test score was its controls, as CarPlace is among all its controls and displays on a center touchscreen with no gauges on the dash and few buttons inside the car. This layout forces drivers to take multiple steps to accomplish simple tasks. Our testers found that everything from adjusting the mirrors to changing the direction of the airflow from the air conditioning vents required using the touchscreen. These types of complex interactions with a touchscreen can cause driver distraction because each act forces drivers to take their eyes off the road and their hands off the steering wheel. And they didn't like the stiff ride, unsupported rear seat, and excessive wind noise at highway speeds. And the Edmunds came out with their long-term. They're in long-term test mode of their Model 3, which they've also purchased. Quote, 16 weeks into ownership, we've had so many issues with our Model 3 that we started a shared Google Doc to catalog various warning messages, necessary screen resets, and general failures. End quote. The number of issues Edmunds had experienced is atypical for a new car. They've also observed a potentially dangerous problem with autopilot that ultimately led Tesla issuing a successful software update. Edmunds also noticed similar complaints about touchscreen and backseat comfort. So, and Elon Musk started going after Edmunds, and then Edmunds responded in a tweet back to Elon. Dear Elon, I'm editor-in-chief of Edmunds. I'm paid by Edmunds to put the consumer first. We bought a Model 3. Tell it as it is, good and bad, and millions of customers respect us for it. We paid you, Tesla, not the other way around. Fix the car, not the media. Because Elon started going after the media and saying the media is all against him.
He's going to create he's going to create a website called Prada, right? Pravda. That ranks the media's truthfulness.
which means what? What does Pravda mean?
It means truth in Russian.
And what was Pravda, though? It was the state-run newspaper of the former Soviet Union. That's probably not something I'd use as the name for my own. Yes, it means truth in Russian, but very little truth came out of Pravda.
He's getting his troll skills on. His troll abilities are getting quite good.
He's become fascinating. Oh, and then they, after this whole Consumer Reports and Edmunds slamming on the touch screen, he then tweets out, "We're going to include some fun games as hidden Easter eggs in Tesla S, X, and 3. What do you think the most fun in car using the center console's touchscreen?" So he wants to know what games they can put on the touchscreen. Wow. I mean, this is just getting to the point of absurdity. But it is very interesting.
The game would be Rocket League.
Rocket League?
That's for the gamer. That's for the gamers out there. They know what we're talking about. Rocket League.
What's Rocket League?
That would be the car game that would be on the center console of a Model 3 that you would play.
What's a good racing car game where the car bursts into flames?
Yeah, there's enough of that in Rocket League. Yeah.
Okay, then as long as we're on the same page with that. Yeah. So that's in our latest Tesla news. Tesla holding sort of in this little sideways consolidation at 278, down for prior highs at 389, back below the daily rotation zone. Let me check the weekly. Because any rallies, it rallied up this week to hit the declining 8 at 291 and sold back off. So first level resistance right now is 291. Next major level resistance, the 21 EMA on the weekly basis, is now at the base of the triggered double top. So any rallies, that base is very strong. That's the 300 level. There's a lot of resistance up there. So we shall see what happens with Tesla, our favorite whipping boy right now.
Absolutely.
It is funny. Is he trolling people, or is he just I mean, what's your take? I literally want to know, because some of the stuff he's going off.
He's not trolling Consumer Reports, because on their podcast, the Consumer Reports podcast, Jake from Consumer Reports got a call from Elon.
You listen to the
had
call?
a good hour conversation with Elon on the phone about, because Elon wants to know how to fix the Model 3.
Elon knows he needs Consumer Reports. He needs Consumer Reports. So he didn't attack him.
I do have good news for Tesla. I did have good news. I'm not just going to bash Tesla. The Tesla Model 3 sales beat BMW 3 Series and Mercedes C-Class during the first quarter in California. So that was the best-selling car in the near luxury segment. The Tesla Model 3 had 3,723 registrations in California. The Mercedes C-Class was next at 3,323. And the BMW 3 Series came in at 3,260 in third. So that was the good news for Tesla in California. I forgot about that. Oh, and they're now, he announced this last weekend that they are going to release the performance all-wheel drive version, which goes up to $78,000.
Wow.
It's going, so you can spend up if you have it loaded, it's going to be $78,000. It's got a dual motor, all-wheel drive. It will go, according to Elon, 3.5 seconds for 0 to 60, 155 miles per hour top speed, and a 310-mile range.
Why would he make the decontented $35,000 model then? He's going to wait to make that thing if he ever gets that far.
If he can, yeah, because he's even said if they were, he said this in a tweet too. Somebody asked him why he's not making it, and he said because if we'd make it, we'd go broke. Because they can't make any money on it.
Elon, with your debts, you're already broke.
So, yeah, so now they're gonna. Would you spend $78,000 on a Model 3?
No.
Boy, if I had $78,000 burning a hole in my pocket to buy a new car, it would not be a Model 3 maxed out.
I know. I mean, that's insane. Yeah, so crude oil is going to be the big story, and we'll see how this plays out next week. I am Bob Iacchino.
And I'm Mike Arnold.
Thanks for listening as always, and you two guys, thanks for having me again.
And we'll talk to everybody soon. Bye for now.